Hey, hey, hey. Happy Wednesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, amazingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. This is live stream number 1050. Yowza. So if you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. We just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and then I will normally pontificate about some topic that's affiliated with our hobby, which will also be the case tonight. But we're certainly not engaged in any sort of rocket surgery or anything along those lines. Just hanging out, having a good time, kicking back and relaxing. Now, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Also, because this is a live show, that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you are a subscriber and have been so for at least an hour, and you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight is our good friend of the show, the Madman. And Lenny Blade is with us, as is Tony Urquides, W. Forge, Semper Buffo, my pal from high school, Scott Weigel. Jeff Moore is also joining us, as is Chris Lundgren and Shozama85. Should point out, if you post in chat before the show starts, you aren't first out the gates. That is a false start. Get penalized. Anyway, welcome aboard, everybody. Good to see you tonight. So tonight's topic I will be discussing, and by all means, I would really like you to chime in chat once we get to that point, once we finish up the news tonight. But I am going to talk about, is there really a shortage of dungeon masters and game masters around? Is there a shortage? And if there is, what could be leading to that? So we will discuss in just a bit. The Badger is with us, as is Daryl Arrett and Beat Cafe. Good to see you all. And Carolyn is also jumping on in. Badger says there's absolutely a shortage of quality dungeon masters. I routinely see box text readers at my friendly local game store. Stephen from Roll for Combat is with us. Good to see you, Stephen. I'm sure he's got something to toss into the ring when we get to the topic. Hold on, everybody. Hold on there a minute, Baba Louie. I'll do the thinning around here. But yes, we will get into that. There's always a shortage of quality game masters, but we're not talking quality game masters. We'll be talking about just game masters in general. So stay tuned. Like I said, we'll get into it right after I finish the news, and we're jumping right on into the news because right now, Modiphius Entertainment has announced they are now taking pre-orders for Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition. Here's the skinny. The Star Trek Adventures role-playing game takes you to the final frontier. From the 21st through to the 32nd century, join Starfleet, the Klingon Empire, the Romulan Star Empire, and countless other civilizations, and journey across the Star Trek universe with your crew. Explore strange new worlds, encounter fantastical alien life forms, and engage in dramatic adventures in a detailed and immersive galaxy. Tell your stories and unravel the mysteries of the unknown. The 376-page full-color hardcover Star Trek Adventures 2nd Edition core rulebook, say that 5 times fast, contains a complete and updated version of the 2D20 system rules designed for an authentic Star Trek experience. An extensive primer on Star Trek, although you know what? From now on, I'm just going to say primer because I have heard more and more people say primer, not primer. And those people I keep hearing saying it are Brits. And that's who I thought was the one who, ones who get a little bent out of shape if you say primer, not primer. Just throwing that out there. Because this was a discussion one night a few years ago on the live stream. Is it primer or primer? An extensive primer on Star Trek, including details on a range of societies, worlds, species, and the scientific concepts that underpin this timeless universe. 14 player character species to choose from, including Andorian, Cardassian, Klingon, Orion, and Vulcan. That's right, you can play an Orion slave woman if need be. Guidelines for both novice and experienced game masters, offering advice on challenging your players with dramatic and thoughtful gameplay unique to the Star Trek universe. Game statistics and graphics for 15 playable starship classes, including Federation, Klingon, and Romulan vessels. Dozens of non-player characters, starships, and creatures to populate your missions, including Federation, Klingon, Cardassian, and Dominion. Historical excerpts, personal logs, and intercepted communications provide fresh perspectives and insights from across the galaxy. Created by an expert Star Trek development team, including a diverse mix of experienced and new artists, designers, editors, and writers. These are the voyages of your ship, your crew. Live it together. The 376-page hardcover with PDF carries a pre-order price of $63.75. Kind of an oddball MSRP, to be honest, and is expected to arrive in August. Yes, this is supposed to be a Gen Con release. Very nice. I am looking forward to checking this out. I certainly am. Now, I think there was somebody in chat last night who had mentioned that they thought for sure I was going to include Star Trek Adventures as one of my 3 science fiction role-playing games that I felt deserved more love. But the reality is, there's a lot of Star Trek Adventures content out there, and it does get a good amount of coverage. That's why I did not include it. But just so you know, another new edition coming on out. Very excited about this. And once again, I know there are going to be people out there who are like, the 2D20 system. This is supposed to be streamlined. So we will find out. W. Forge says Modiphius is discounting a bunch of Star Trek Adventures 1st edition content right now. Matthew Perkins is with us. Said they just started watching Star Trek for the first time, that they would love to try a Star Trek role-playing game. Very cool. Well, welcome to the universe, right? Very nice. Good to see. It's kind of interesting to see people experience these famous science fiction properties for the first time. I have I should say I had a friend, because he's passed on, who had never seen any of the Star Wars movies. And he refused to see them because it got to the point where his attitude was, you know what? I've gone this long without seeing him. Why should I start now? And it was like, okay. And I got to be honest, he went to his grave never seeing a Star Wars movie. I thought that was bizarre. And he liked science fiction stuff. It was weird. It was just weird. So Scott says to Chris, the world does not revolve around 5e D&D. It's a larger scope, Dungeon Master, Game Master topic. Yeah, you're right, Scott. It's going to be. It is. I just threw out Dungeon Master because people automatically, click with that. Sometimes you say Game Master and people are like, Jeff Moore says they like starships and spacemen. Sumper Buffo points out that this is going to be backward compatible. W. Forge says, poll, Star Trek versus Star Wars. Make your choice if you dare. Carolyn says they've been a Trek geek for almost 50 years. Kathy Evans is with us in chat. Good to see you, Kathy. The Badger says they prefer Prime Directive over anything else. I think it's the Starfleet Battles growyard in them. Yes, good old Starfleet Battles. My friend Scott hanging out in chat. He remembers Star Trek Battles very well. Oh, yeah. Back when it first came out, and it wasn't just overwhelming with all the rules. I think that's the problem that Starfleet Battles ended up having, was they just started throwing everything and the kitchen sink into it. Where we used to be able to play a game with a few ships on a few ships and wrap up in, 3-4 hours, which was not unusual when we were in high school. Games took a while to play and people weren't in such a big hurry. Now it's kind of like, oh my gosh. I have not seen Starfleet Battles from, isn't it Amarillo Game Studio, something like that, who owns it now? Funny enough, Task Force Games had a lot of cool stuff that came out. Scott points out it was a ping pong table covered with the space map. Yes. Chris Lundgren's asking, does Star Trek Adventures have source material for Enterprise? I believe, if I remember correctly, I have seen Enterprise get a crew release. So it's a PDF that you'll see come out like they had it for the first season of Discovery, second season of Discovery. I think they just released the Picard one. I think that was the most recent. And I would take a guess, it's probably about 30 pages in length. And he usually has stat blocks for the important crew and things like that. I actually liked Enterprise. I thought Enterprise was pretty decent. I did not catch the last season before it got canceled. I watched the first 2 seasons. I thought it was fine. It didn't blow me away. The only Star Trek series that ever truly blew me away, yes, I enjoyed the original series. Next Generation. I mean, for myself and Elliot, my fiance, our friends, it was like must-see TV Sunday nights. Oh, gotta be home at 10 because the latest episode of Next Generation was coming on. Although I will admit, if I were flipping channels and I see an episode of Next Generation and Riker doesn't have the beard, I don't stop and watch it. All right, moving right along. Hey, I remember I mentioned that May was going to be Science Fiction Month. That is our theme tonight in our news, too. Because there is a new bundle of holding which has arrived. It features the Cephas Engine role-playing game from Moontoad Publishing. I've got the deets on the deal. And yes, as far as I understand, it is pronounced Cephas. I thought it was Cepheus, but I've actually heard it pronounced 3 different ways. Regardless, Adventure. This all-new Moontoad Cephas bundle presents, you guessed it, the Cephas Engine tabletop science fiction role-playing game from Moontoad Publishing. Cephas adapts the rules from Mongoose Publishing's Traveler First Edition, released under the Open Game license, to help you create an experience similar to the original 1977 through 81 classic Traveler Little Black books. UK designer and illustrator Ian Stead and his fellow Moontoads have produced a popular edition of the Cephas rules, followed by major rules expansions and a flotilla of fully illustrated, full-color starship guides. This bargain-priced Moontoad Cephas offer lets you populate your Cephas or Traveler campaign with scout ships, far traders, transports, escorts, and planetary vehicles of every kind. It's a high passage ticket for travelers everywhere. For just $9.95, you'll get all 5 titles in the Moontoad collection, which has a retail value of $80, as DRM-free PDFs, including the complete Cephas Engine core rules, the Spacecraft Design Guide and Vehicle Design Guide, the Bounty Hunter Handbook, and the Scenario Scout Base 947. And if you pay more than the current threshold price of $21.17, you'll level up and also get the entire bonus Starship collection, with 12 more titles worth an additional $85, including Class E starports and no less than 10 Starship guides. Atticus Freelancer, Catino Fast Trader, Solaris Escort, Kambala Freighter, Mainstay Freighter, Quetzat Scout, Rax Type Merchant, Rivington Medium Transport, Roanoke Merchant with Raccoon Landing Craft, and Starguard System Defense Boat, as well as ship record sheets for many ship designs. These savings will run through May 13th. Sweet. Very nice. Very nice. Scott points out that Starfire Empires is far easier to play than Starfleet Battles. Yes, Starfire 1, 2, and 3. I actually have PDFs of those. And Scott is right on the money. He is right on the money. It is far easier to play than Starfleet Battles, and it's similar in its approach. And it does share a little bit of DNA with Car Wars, actually. The way damage is actually done to the ships. Yes, yes. So here's the funny thing. Cephas Engine is produced by a lot of different publishers. In fact, Zoser Games releases a lot of Cephas Engine titles, and I would share more news about them, but they use AI art now. And it's like, oh well. Funny enough, I always thought the Cephas Engine was built on Classic Traveler. I did not realize that it was actually built on Mongoose Traveler First Edition, which isn't hugely different, but it is kind of funny that it's using the Traveler rules from First Edition from Mongoose, and it's trying to like emulate Classic Traveler. It's like, oh, okay, all right. Hey, you know what? Speaking of Traveler, now available in print and PDF from the aforementioned Mongoose Publishing, is the Traveler Starship Operator's Manual. Here's what I know. Traveling is about journey, not destinations. And few things shape a voyage across charted space as much as a starship. However, a starship is more than a mere means of transportation. There's also a home and a companion. To captain a starship is to be the master of one's destiny, for riches, glory, or an untimely end. There are many books that examine how to build and fly custom starships, but few on what it's like to work and live on one. That's where the Starship Operator's Manual comes in. The Starship Operator's Manual covers all aspects of life aboard the starships of charted space. Learn the workings of maneuver and jump drives. Find out how to operate advanced sensors and discover exactly what your role on a starship entails. It also includes a complete walkthrough of the Scout/Courier, Far Trader, and Safari ship. The 168-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $49.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $29.99. Sweet. I would hope that this volume does get a bit more into the nitty-gritty about what each station entails, because I think one of the aspects which I think game masters and players of second edition Traveler from Mongoose is when they're in starship combat or avoiding starship combat, what exactly are the player characters doing, right? Because one of the cool things is that everybody is contributing to what's going on. But a lot of times it's sort of like, okay, so your station is sensors. What exactly are you doing? Right? Yes. So very cool, very nice. And once again, this is available in print and PDF. Moving right along, Dungeon Crawl Classics number 105 by Mitra's Bones, Meet Thy Doom, is available in print and PDF. I've got the latest from Goodman Games. This is a second-level adventure for Dungeon Crawl Classics that ties in with the classic Dark Tower. Goodman Games is happy to announce Dungeon Crawl Classics number 105 by Mitra's Bones, Meet Thy Doom. The ancient conflict between Set and Mitra rears its head anew when the characters discover that relics of the slain Mitra remain in the scaly hands of Set's servants. The party must overcome the machinations and horrors of an undead menace to steal back the god's bones. The party will discover that the war between Set and Mitra is far from over, and that a lingering evil remains under the shifting desert sands. By Mitra's Bones, Meet Thy Doom is a second-level Dungeon Crawl Classics adventure that can be played as a standalone tale or used as a means to introduce Janelle Jacquet's famed Dark Tower adventure into any Dungeon Crawl Classics campaign. Journey into a world of old-school adventuring where danger lurks around every corner in Dungeon Crawl Classics. Starting with the zero-level funnel, you take your band of peasants ready for gold or glory and try to survive and become a full-fledged warrior, wizard, thief, halfling, or even elf. Roll your funky dice, add your luck, or burn some stats for a spell burn against creatively wicked creatures. Are you up to the challenge? This 30-page softcover with PDF does carry an MSRP of $10.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $7.99. Should point out that if you are not overly familiar with Dungeon Crawl Classics, of course, it is an old school flavored role-playing game. I know people get upset and they say, it's not OSR. It's my definition of OSR, not other people's definition of OSR. But as far as the levels go, you only go to level 10. So the reality is a second level adventure is the equivalent of about a fourth level AD&D or basic expert D&D adventure. And I thought this was pretty cool that they've released this because it does segue into that relatively new, I almost said new, but it's been out for a little bit, Dark Tower slipcase set that Goodman Games had released, which looks amazing. But that is also a bit of a higher level adventure. So I like how this is kind of an intro into that setting. Very nice. I thought that was a very cool touch. So once again, this is available now in print and PDF. Let's see. Who do we got in chat that I have not said hello to? Pete Strakolich is with us. Kevin King has popped on in. Kevin R. Smith is with us as well. Kevin King says that they ordered this from Goodman Games directly. Should have it before the end of summer. I thought it was in stock, though. I thought this was actually in stock. Shoner is with us, or Shoner is with us. I believe it's a first-time visit, pointing out there's actually a player shortage. I don't know about that. So who was it that asked how? Oh, Matthew Perkins said, how is it not OSR? Because it's got aspects to it that aren't from OD&D, AD&D, basic expert. Kevin King says it's in stock. They're just slow. Yes, I knew that. I was wondering if that's why Kevin had said that. I was like, is he implying that they're kind of slow getting stuff out at Goodman Games? Because yes, when I ordered from them, I was also kind of surprised that how long it took them to actually ship out. Yeah. Lord Cast 2000 and GameCat are also with us in chat. Pete Strakolich points out the dice chain. Yes, that's part of it. The Zaki dice are not OSR. So that is something. Spellburn is not OSR. But once again, I like Dungeon Crawl Classics. I think it is a fun, old school flavored role-playing game. And you're never at a loss for content either. So it's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. James Venabush is with us tonight. We got a really good chat, rocking and rolling. Let's finish up with my final news piece. Free League Publishing has released the first volume of the Throne of Thorns fantasy role-playing campaign for Ruins of Symborum 5e. Here's the scoop. Perilous expeditions into the dark depths of Davakar Forest, deadly encounters with murderous cultists, hostile elves, and warriors of the Beast Clan, intense faction play and political maneuvering. You'll experience all this and more when the epic quest for the legendary Throne of Thorns begins. This hardcover full-color book presents the first 2 episodes of the acclaimed adventure chronicle, The Throne of Thorns, adapted for play with the 5e rule set and the Ruins of Symborum setting books. Expect the stakes to be high, the competitors relentless, and the darkness ever present, for the Forest of Davakar is about to awaken. The Throne of Thorns, Episode 1, or Volume 1, contains the 2 full-length adventures, Wrath of the Warden and the Witch Hammer, for characters of levels 7 to 9. More than 20 color maps detailing adventure locations in towns, forests, and ruins. Over 50 stat blocks covering non-player characters of different types, monsters, potential allies or adversaries, as well as famous or notorious individuals. A dozen journey events that can be used to make the characters' travels in the forest even more exciting, as well as more than 10 handouts. That was kind of odd. It's more than 10 handouts. Couldn't they just say like 11 or 12? More than 10 to be used during play, offering important information for social challenges and problem solving. Do keep in mind, this book does require access to the Ruins of Symborum core setting books, the Player's Guide, Game Master's Guide, and Bestiary. The 204-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $44.99. You can grab just the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $24.99. Very nice, very cool. In fact, I should point out, I actually have a copy right here. So I will be sharing some coverage of this. I should also mention that Sammy Uhas has reviewed the 2 adventures that are in here, which originally came out for Symborum, as opposed to Ruins of Symborum. So we do have those reviews up on thegaminggang.com if you want to check those out, because they are written reviews. But I will also be sharing some coverage, so we'll get to take a peek inside here. So stay tuned for that. Omenal is also popping on in. So very nice. Shozama85 says, Dungeon Crawl Classics, doesn't it use the open game license from 3rd edition of D&D? I know it uses the open game license. To be very honest, I haven't dug around to see if it utilizes it from 3rd edition or if it's from like 1st edition. I don't know. Kevin King says Dungeon Crawl Classics is probably as different from OD&D as Tunnels and Trolls was. It is its own thing. Completely agree with you on that. It shares DNA, but it is certainly its own creation. And it's really a lot of fun. Some people don't care for Dungeon Crawl Classics because of certain aspects of it might not appeal to some people. Like, for example, the funnel adventure, where you may start off with 5 characters who don't even have classes. They ain't got no class. And you might have one item and it's a chicken. Or if you're a gong farmer, you've got the gong. And we're not talking about the thing that you go bung. Talking about stuff that you scrape off your shoes if you step in it. You know what I mean? So, W4 says they're wondering if Sarah D is lurking about. I know I did not mention Sarah D. My apologies. I would take a guess. She might be hanging around in the shadows. Possibly. Very possibly. All right, so that is the news for tonight. Of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit Drive-Thru RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storyteller's Vault, even Wargame Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Lovely. And I do want to point out, recently, Agile Monk, Joshua Edwards, and the madman himself stopped by paypal.me/thegaminggang and made not small donations. So big tip of the cap to them, but also a thank you to everyone who utilizes those banner ads and or stops by paypal.me/thegaminggang. Thank you very much. Chris Lundgren says Dungeon Crawl Classics and Mutant Crawl Classics are great role-playing games on their own. They 100% agree. I do have to say that I like DCC far more than MCC, because to me, MCC just doesn't have the same amount of content in the book. The book feels trimmed down because it's, I don't know, probably about 150 pages shorter than Dungeon Crawl Classics. Kevin King says they've run DCC for 14 people so far, various sessions. Only 2 of them disliked it. Nice. Very cool. Kevin R. Smith says the paperback of Dungeon Crawl Classics that they got at Gen Con does not appear to have an open game license page in it. So is there an SRD around someplace? I don't know. You know, strangely enough, I think I have seen the open game license page on Adventures. Kind of weird. Kind of weird. Yes. So this evening, I am going to ask, is there really a shortage of dungeon masters and game masters? And we'll get into that right after a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
To discover that mother knows best.
Good. Johnny came calling one Sunday. The girl of his dreams was so sweet. She served him some wonderful dishes, but he found the meal incomplete.
No soup?
Good day, Irene, good day. Goodbye, he sighed. To get the punch of soup for lunch,
I'll seek another bride.
oh, what a wailing and sighing.
Oh, what shall I do, Mother dear? Just reach for some soup from the soup shelf. You'll soon have your Johnny back here.
Did someone say soup?
Soup and a salad delicious. Soup and a sandwich is great. Soup for lunch is nutritious.
Yes, you are my favorite date.
Now they're a family, one happy bunch.
And every day you'll hear them say,
Let's have soup for lunch. Good.
How's this for lunch or light supper tomorrow? Lean, tender pieces of beef, plus juicy golden egg noodles and rich, full-flavored beef stock. That's Campbell's Beef Noodle Soup, a grand lunch or light supper.
Today, some airlines go out of their way to please you.
Time for the movie.
I don't want a movie.
I ordered steak,
I don't want a movie.
but I wanted steak.
I don't think he wants the movie.
At PSA, we never lost sight of what an airline should be. So at PSA, we give you more planes and less fancies. We give you low fares, not fanfares. PSA, our smiles aren't just painted on.
Wilkins coffee and pie? 25 cents.
I didn't drink the Wilkins.
That's $1 even. It pays to drink Wilkins.
Dear kids.
Lovable, be truly.
Dear kids and teacher, yours truly, your lovable postman is here with post alphabets.
Wait till, children, wait till recess.
Dear teacher, wait till they taste post alphabets. Every letter is frosted with brown sugar, and every letter's a little bit better for you.
Wait till recess.
At recess, you can try my alphabets, teacher dear.
Recess.
They're ABC delicious.
Get alphabets in the new Post Compact box. This is yours truly saying in alphabets, dear kids, ILBCNE.
I thought it was interesting that they had the lesbian couple in that Campbell's Soup ad from like the 1950s. I was really surprised. Sorry, that little dude was taking his soup way too serious. Way too serious. Oh, you don't have soup? Well, I'm going to go find some other whore who's got soup. See ya. It's like, geez. I do like that PSA airline or PS airline, whatever it was. I don't recall ever flying it, but I thought that was pretty funny. I thought that was pretty good. All right, we got quite a few new folks popping on into chat. Flaming Huron's with us. So we've got all three of our chat moderators present this evening. John Snyder and Lord Cthulhu 01, as well as James Eck, are popping on in. I see Chuck Terrell is also with us. So before we get into tonight's topic, I do want to mention, hey, thanks to everybody who's been watching the show. Since I've changed to the format where we have a topic, the view numbers have jumped. In fact, I was really surprised by how many people who watched last night's show. I was like, really? I think it's closing in on like 1,000. So I was like, okay. I didn't think that it was that big a deal as far as the topic went. Chris Lundgren says, Buddy is watching the show. Hello, Buddy. Don't crap on the keyboard, Buddy. Be a good bird. James X said those eyelashes had me thinking the same about that Campbell's soup. Kevin King says, Alphabets like Cheerios, only lamer. I don't know. Cheerios are pretty lame. Scott says that PSA was a regional airline from American. Oh, that I did not know. I didn't know that. But funny enough, I remember that commercial. I remember seeing that commercial. So it must have flown into the Chicago area. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. Okay, so tonight we're going to discuss, is there really a shortage of dungeon masters, game masters out there? And we have already discussed earlier, before we got into the news, that there is always a shortage of good game masters. You could have a glut of game masters. You're still going to have a shortage of good or exceptional or outstanding, we'll even just say good game masters out there. Somebody in chat, I forget who it was, had mentioned that there are a lot of boxed text readers at their friendly local game store. Flaming Heron says there's a shortage of game masters who aren't running 5e. See, and funny enough, I was looking into some various different avenues here, and I think Steven from Roll for Combat is still hanging out in chat, so I'm hoping that he will chime in a little bit on this, because I wouldn't be shocked if he has tackled this topic in the past, because this tends to rear its head every once in a while, as far as there aren't enough dungeon masters, there aren't enough game masters out there. So there are, in my opinion, I think there actually is a bit of a shortage, and probably even with 5e, probably more so than had been in the past. So, of course, during COVID, well, COVID's not over, but the pandemic essentially is. We did see a lot of folks take on the mantle of being a dungeon master, online games, over Zoom, over Roll20, things like that. To be honest, I don't know how huge the growth was online for more complex virtual tabletops, so such as Foundry. I'm sure that the pandemic was good for it, but I don't think it was probably as good as it was for Roll20. So we did see some growth there as far as game masters go. But I think, so James Venabush is touching on a point that I am going to also get into. I'm going to tell you right now, there are some conclusions that I have, which I guarantee are going to piss some people off. What else is new, right? But I think it's kind of obvious, and I do think it's something that not enough people look at when they talk about, well, how come there aren't more people running role-playing games? Why is it so difficult to find a good group to role play with, be it in person or online? Because not everybody has, a group of friends they can get together with every couple of weeks, or maybe if they're lucky, every week and play. Now, funny enough, my neighbors, their son, he's around 30, he plays every Monday. He and his friends are gamers. That's why they were really surprised that I lived here. They're like, wait a second, we've seen you. And I'm like, yeah. So they get together every Monday night at the house next door. And I think they get together on Saturdays or something someplace else. But a lot of people don't have that opportunity, especially if you move somewhere. So if you move somewhere because of work or whatever, you're kind of, up shit creek, because it is really tough. Now, I have heard of people who have floated out that they're looking to run a game online, and that they may get hundreds of applications to get into their online game. So I guess there are a lot of people looking to get into games out there. Okay, so let me jump back here, because where was the comment? Oh, there. Okay. So James Venabush said, too many people set the bar far too high. Give it a shot. Any dungeon master, game master is better than none. So I have heard people whinging about how people who would run Dungeons or Dragons or another tabletop role-playing game don't, because they don't want to have to put up with the players. So I have seen that out there, and I have seen people push back on that. And of course, you may recall last Thursday's show, there is some of that. I had seen comments from people when I was talking about that consent form. I did see comments where people were saying, this is why I don't game master anymore. This is why I don't game master online or at my friendly local game store. I don't think that's a huge thing. I don't think that's a huge deterrent for people to be running role-playing games. I really don't. But I do understand that, like myself, I don't know how enthusiastic I would be to run a role-playing game for a bunch of complete strangers, because I don't know what to expect from them. And in a lot of ways, I wouldn't know what they're expecting from me. So we talk about this, and people watch various actual play shows that are really well done, professionally produced, and sometimes they come to the table, they're expecting that. And that tain't going to be the case, Dooley. Tain't happening, Dooley. So I can understand game masters out there not wanting to disappoint people. I'll be the first to point out that when I run role-playing games, I almost never ask the group, well, how did you like it? Or, spend time discussing the session afterwards, picking people's brains, because I can normally tell if they had a good time or not. It's usually pretty apparent, so I don't tend to do that. The Man says what they found with their three groups is there's a lack of people willing to DM or GM. He's a forever DM/GM for two groups. Flaming Heron says it really depends on where you live. Yes. James Venabush says, just like everything, the more you do anything, the better you become at it. Every dungeon master, game master starts off terrible. Maybe not terrible, but not great. Because you got to keep in mind, these days, a lot of people will hang out and they will watch actual plays, sometimes of the adventure they plan on running. I hear more and more people doing that. So Dr. Turd Midget, that's an interesting nickname. And I can certainly say that it is the first time that they have popped on into chats, at least with that nickname, says everybody wants to play 5e. I'm tired of 5e. I want to run some Dungeon Crawl Classics, Mutant Crawl Classics, or Gamma World. So what I tell people to do, as long as it's not like online, because you don't want to mislead people that you're, getting an online group together for. But if it's just your friends, just say, hey, we're going to play D&D and run Mutant Crawl Classics. So, because there are a lot of people out there who use D&D in the same way that you use the word Kleenex, right? Yeah, okay, so you get a tissue. It's not really Kleenex brand, but you call it. Most people say, yeah, hand me a Kleenex. Well, Kevin King says, well, without voice acting, cosplay, fully realized miniature sets, sound effects, and streaming, are you really a dungeon master? I'm sorry, you forgot the detailed and painted terrain. John Harden is with us in chat. Says, I tell some of the guys that I played with in college, this is back in the late 80s, early 90s, that the culture of Dungeons and Dragons has totally shifted and it's getting kind of bizarre. Getting? But the funny thing is the huge majority of people out there are just regular folks who just want to play a fantasy or science fiction game and kind of escape for a little while. Just have some fun, have some laughs, enjoy some snacks around a table with their friends. I mean, that's really what's going on with the vast majority of people. Chuck Terrell says they GM to give their brother a break so he can play once in a while. I wish that was the case with me. I'm nowhere near his talent level, but I just do my best. Yeah, and the funny thing is, like myself, when I have an opportunity to play, yeah, sometimes, and trust me, it's not too often over the past, 30 years. I got to play a lot more, 40 years ago. Not over the past 30 years. I think I've played 3 times. No joke. In the last 30 years, I got to be a player. 3, maybe 4 times. But a lot of times I have to, mentally make sure that I'm not like judging the other person's game mastering skills or how they go about, not even their skills, just their approach. Because everybody's approach is different. Some people will read paragraph after paragraph of box text, which Wizards of the Coast, we've said this time and time again, actually issued a report on saying, you know what, people check out after about the 3rd sentence. So we really shouldn't do long boxed, read out loud text. And they still do. But I think sometimes players don't necessarily appreciate the amount of work that goes into game mastering a role-playing game. And I know you see it all over the place. You see all these different releases and it's all, oh, zero prep. This is prep free. Just crack it open and play. For my personal opinion, I have yet to see something that's supposed to be zero prep that comes across as being interesting to play or memorable to play. Because that's kind of what I always look to do, is to make the experience at the game table memorable so that it's like, wow, that was a lot of fun. Oh, I can't believe this happened. Or, oh, when when we came up with the idea to do this, and then it worked. And I was like, oh my gosh. That's what I always shoot for, is for a memorable experience. That's why you hear me say all the time, I do not give a shit about rules for the most part. Yes, I do use them. And of course, it's a skeleton that things get built upon. But if we're in the midst of some, action-packed scene, I am not stopping the action to be like, oh, hold on, hang on. I'm not familiar with that rule. Let me go double check. Let me hang on. Hold on, everybody. I know everybody's like, oh, stop, take a breath. Like, absolutely no way. Omenal says their local library has 3 Dungeons and Dragons games going, and people are always welcome to add even more. Pete Strakolich says big-ass books scare people from DMing. Modules rock. Yeah, there are people out there like, published adventures are shit. Oh, real game masters, homebrew everything. Not true. Not true at all. So, of course, Kevin King says, they were joking about all that stuff, about the miniatures and everything. They do Theater of the Mind since 1981. Yes, I do Theater of the Mind, too. Kevin R. Smith says, I don't think watching people handle the unexpected can help. People have the illusion that you can run a published adventure like a paint-by-numbers thing. It's not true. No, usually, depending on what role-playing game it is. Usually, if you're running D&D, you want to try to just use that published adventure as your framework. Because there's no telling what your players are going to do. Now, I have run role-playing games for the same people some of the same people for decades. And they surprise me from time to time, too, when it's like, I never thought they would have gone in that direction. Damn. Semper Buffo says, I think running games online are as much work as in person. I personally think it's more. Ribbit is with us in chat. Welcome aboard. Says the Warhammer box sets from Cubicle 7 build themselves as no prep, but really need to be read and digested before running. Really? Because I don't recall Cubicle 7 trying to say that their starter set is no prep. It's an introductory adventure that helps you learn the game as you play, where I guess you could read it. I think that would kind of suck. I think the adventure would suck, though, because it's not exactly laid out like, say, Chaosium Inc. likes to do their introductory adventures, where it's almost along the lines of a create your own adventure, where you have numbered entries, where it's like, oh, are you going to do this? Go to this. If you're going to do this, go to this. That's not how the beginning adventure is for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. Kyle Chaplin, I don't think I said hello to Kyle. If I did, well, hello again. Said, I think zines are the best of both worlds. Mothership's community content is an amazing in-between for published, but not a box text per room. Yeah, a lot of people are looking for, bullet points and things like that. All right. And Cracks the Bold says they run only online. On Roll20, it's about the same amount of prep for them now. Used to be a lot more, but not anymore. They use a chalkboard and only draw when or if needed. All right. So the reason why I think there is an issue where there aren't enough dungeon masters and game masters out there is twofold. One, a vast majority of people who are interested in role-playing games only want to play. They don't want the time and energy investment into being a dungeon master or a game master. because we've talked about this before. I'm not saying everybody, but there are a lot of people out there, and that's why you see how popular it is with people creating their backstories and spending hours upon hours crafting their characters. Because in some ways, depending on the role-playing game you're playing and the people who are playing in that game, the actual adventure doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't. The players want to just enjoy something which expands their character, grows their character, adds to the character's powers, abilities, so on and so forth. They really don't care about what the adventure actually is. It's, once again, not everyone, but there is a segment of players out there who that is what they go and sit down around a table or get online to play role-playing games are all about. It's all about their character. So if you are a game master, understanding that there are a good number of people out there who are like this, especially if you're going to run it online, where you're going to have to weed through a bunch of people to try to get a group you're hoping is going to at least stick together for you to finish an adventure. Would you want to go through all of the work involved, knowing that some of these players, or even the majority of the players that you're going to be running an adventure for, don't really care about the adventure? I don't think so. I think that would make some people who are going to be dungeon masters or game masters take pause and say, you know what? I don't know if I want to deal with that. So we do have, most people don't want the responsibility. They don't want the additional headache of being a game master. Also, got to keep in mind, the way people socially interact now is very different. It is very, very different than when I was a teenager, when I was in my 20s, even when I was in my 30s. You see people sitting next to each other, texting each other, as opposed to turning their head and actually speaking. You see it all the time. Groups of kids hanging out or teenagers hanging out, and they're all on their phones and they're texting within their group. They're not texting other people outside of the group. They're texting people who are right there, who are present. I mean, it just kind of blows my mind. So as a game master, you need to be able to communicate, and you need to be able to make eye contact with people, right? You have to be comfortable talking with them, drawing some gamers out. One thing that I always do my best to do is, if we have somebody at the table who isn't like really up, like throwing ideas out and stuff like that. Maybe they're having a good time, but they're just kind of shy or something like that. I always do my best to try to give them some spotlight time every session, just to kind of, make them feel more part of the group. Sly Blue Demon and Agile Monk are both hanging out with us in chat. Once again, we got a really nice chat rocking and rolling right now. W4 says, Owlbear Rodeo seems like a simpler virtual tabletop solution. I am not familiar with it at all. Cracks the Bold's talking about weeding players out. So anyway, there are players out there who, won't game master because they don't have the social skills to game master. And, that's fine. I mean, people have become way more withdrawn in the past decade than, in my opinion, than they ever had been before. And I do find it disturbing, find it disturbing that they've actually had polls, as weird as this is going to sound, but they've actually done polls with people, and they're I don't want to say vast majority of people, younger people, have said, well, they'd rather whack off than actually have sex with another human being. And it's like, what? It's like, so the way people interact with each other is very different than when I grew up. So Carolyn says game mastering is what taught them their social skills, frankly. So here's another reason that I think you may not have as many people looking to game master. And that is some information came out recently from a nonprofit group called the Literacy Project. It's independent, nonprofit. And they did a study. And they found that there are currently 45 million Americans who are functionally illiterate. So that doesn't mean they're unable to read and write. But it does mean they're unable to read and write above a fifth grade level, I should say. Which, that is pretty amazing. 45 million Americans are functionally illiterate. Just like approximately 1 in 6 people in the world are illiterate. Not functionally illiterate, they are illiterate. Also, half of all adults cannot read a book that is aimed at higher than 8th grade level. Now, once again, this is according to the Literacy Project, but I have heard things like this in the past, fairly recently. Sly Blue Demon is with us. I don't think I said hello to Sly Blue Demon. So just take a moment. Half of all adults can't, not that they don't choose to, they can't. They're incapable of reading and comprehending a book which is written at a higher than 8th grade level. That's pretty scary. And that also will lead into people not wanting to be game masters, because reading comprehension is a huge skill that you must have to be a dungeon master or game master. It's a must. I'm afraid I don't know how you could be a good game master without having reading comprehension, because you need to read the rule book, the setting book, what have you, and comprehend that, which, of course, vast majority of players don't want to have to read through a whole rule book. All they care about is what rules apply to my character and what my character does. So something that people don't talk about is the fact that people just don't comprehend what they read any longer is also a reason why you don't have as many game masters or dungeon masters as you would hope. And this is something that I do not think anybody discussed. I don't think anyone has brought this up. It's always like, oh, well, people don't want to have to deal with the wokeness, or they don't want to deal with the far right grognards. No, I don't. Well, sure, of course, that has something to do with some people, but I don't think it's the vast majority. I think the two main reasons that there is a shortage of dungeon masters and game masters is A, people don't want the headache. They don't want to, have to act out a stable of characters, their NPCs and stuff like that. All they want to do is focus on a single character, which is their player character. And then, secondly, that there are far too many Americans who do not comprehend correctly what they read. So there you have it. Shozama85 says, reason number 3 is dungeon mastering, game mastering costs more than being a player. Absolutely. It absolutely does. Now, if you're lucky and you've got a good group, hopefully they kick in for your adventures and things like that. A lot of times they don't. So, and then, funny enough, we were talking last week about professional dungeon masters. I get it. I understand it. I understand if people are going to invest their time and energy in being a dungeon master, game master, there should be something coming back to them. Because yes, being a game master, being a dungeon master, there is normally additional cost that players do not have. Of course, now, if all you're doing is running free PDFs and things like that, well, there really isn't a cost outside of investment of your time and energy. Cracks the Bolt says, we're living in the movie Idiocracy. Hey, when that movie came out, I thought, this is pretty close to the truth. And sadly, it's just gotten worse. W. Forge says, someone said to me, did you go to school, stupid? And he said, I did. And I came out the same way. Yeah, well, that's a completely different topic for a channel that's not this, right? It's like, oh my gosh. Don't get me started on that weird-ass math that they try to teach these kids. It's like ballpark math. No, it's not ballpark. This is the answer. This is the correct answer. It's the only correct answer because it's math. Not, well, it's around this. My God, is that how engineers are going to work in the future? Around 19 degrees, I guess. Just build it. Summer Buffo says they learned English reading the first edition of Dungeons and Dragons. Agile Monk says, Thaco, a great teacher. Cracks the Bolt says, DMing is fun. Yeah, it is. It's a blast. That's why you never hear me complain where it's like, I never get to play. I like playing. I think it's fun if I get to play every once in a while. But I actually enjoy game mastering far more than I do as a player. Most of the time. I have played in some games where I was like, wow, that was just a blast. We just had such a good time. But usually it's just like, yay, hey, cool, I got to play. Nice. Flaming Heron says school's about teaching kids to be good little drones. They don't teach functional skills that will help you learn more after they left school. Yeah, it's kind of, regardless where you live, what country you're in, is kind of like that. It is kind of like that. W. Forge says, Champions was a great game to practice your fractions. Kevin R. Smith says, well, once Semper Buffo could handle high Gygaxian, he had the whole English language mastered. Cool, sweet. All right. So like I said, those are just some thoughts. I do think there is a shortage of dungeon masters and game masters, but that shortage might not be the cause of that shortage. Probably not the reasons that a lot of people go on Reddit and talk about. I think there's deeper things going on as opposed to, I just don't want to deal with the hassle. James X says they're a far better player than they are a game master, but they spend far more time running games. Cal Chaplin says, do you think wording contributes to people not wanting to dungeon master, saying one is playing and one isn't, could be building up a less fun image of being a dungeon master? Yeah, I mean, the reality is everybody is playing. I mean, I guess you could say some people are player characters and other people are game masters, dungeon masters. I don't know. To be honest, I don't think it plays that much into it because I think most people will at least investigate a little further into role-playing games that they normally I don't think would be scared off by that, where it's like, oh, you guys are playing on the Game Master. Because once again, you could look at it as, well, all these people are the players and you only had the one Game Master, the Dungeon Master. So you could have that. I know. All righty. So I have no idea what the topic will be for tomorrow. None whatsoever. I might just do an AMA unless something catches my eye. And then I will, of course, post that. So if you follow me on Twitter or Facebook, or if you even take a peek at the community page here on YouTube, you'll normally have an idea of what is cooking. But like I said, just off the top of my head, I do not know what tomorrow's topic will be. Kevin King said in the 80s, I think most dungeon masters also read books for pleasure. That is not the case now. Yeah, because for one, you figure that a lot of, especially dungeon masters, they did go out and pick up books that are in Appendix N. I didn't personally use Appendix N to go pick stuff up. But interestingly enough, I did pick up a lot of books that were on that. So Scott says that they like having another game master play the NPC characters. Or NPC. I assume that Scott just mistyped that. Chris Lundgren asks, how to avoid game master burnout? I think the biggest way to avoid any sort of game master burnout is don't take it so seriously. I think people who just take things so seriously and, you might have a 4-hour session and for 3 hours and 50 minutes, everybody was having a blast. And then there was a point for about 10 minutes where things came off the rails a little bit. Some game masters would sit there and focus on that and be kicking themselves like, I can't believe that happened. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Come on, it's a game. Have fun. I think that is probably the way that, probably the easiest way to avoid GM burnout, DM burnout. Also, bust out a computer game from time to time or video game from time to time and, engage yourself as a player if, unfortunately, you don't have an opportunity to play as a player with a group. So some discussion of Sly Flourish. No, I have not reviewed any of Sly Flourish stuff. I have shared some news pieces from time to time, but no, I have not had an opportunity to review it. Or I shouldn't say it. It's got a few things that are out there. All righty, that is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live at 7 p.m. Central, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings, right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my upcoming review of Strange and Unusual from Roll for Combat. Yes, it is a bestiary, folks. So stay tuned. I will have a review of this over the weekend. Very nice. Very nice. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you're not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, bigger thank you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company as well. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Of course, I will be back tomorrow, and I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.